flood insurance.
Right.
And I had flood insurance on a little piece of property on a floodplain, and it was at first $125. Then it was $728. And last year they sent out new criteria, and it was wood panel, so they don't cover it. So I gave it up.
Yeah. Well, climate change and what we're going to do about sea level rise and so forth is a whole other challenge. So there's the kind of immediate issue of adaptation.
The sites that they've identified.
Right. Yeah.
Are in. And so I think that there needs to be different kind of focus.
Right.
And the things that people, these urban settings, and you see these urban nets, they work fine if they've been in a warehouse neighborhood, you know. But there's nothing for children. There's no playground area.
Right.
There's no
Right.
school.
Right.
Traditionally,
Right.
development has had a school.
Right.
And it's
Right.
had a small shopping center.
Right.
And
Right. Well, let's talk about that because, you know, again, if we're thinking about housing that's resilient and flexible and accommodating different age groups, eventually, you know, people who now live in like I live in a single family home where I raised my 2 kids, but I don't have to live there indefinitely. I can move to a smaller unit, again, like my friend who lives in the Redwoods here, and my kids or somebody else with kids can move into my house, which is literally a kitty corner to an elementary school. So we don't need to provide all of the same infrastructure for all of the new housing that we're going to create that we would, assuming that every household is going to be a household with children. Shopping, yes, but schools and playgrounds and all that kind of stuff, we don't need that necessarily in the same way that we would have if we were building lots of housing for families with children. But I think over the next 20 years, we're not going to build as much of that.
But the focus is on affordable housing, and the people that have these low income support, for example, in the medical field, you know,
Right.
these people have
Right. Our families. Right.
and so they can't afford to live.
Right.
So they're the ones that SB 375 is trying to address the ones
Right.
that move.
Right. Well, I think there's some of the answer to that is a combination of, again, if people would get, you know, allow some of those families to move into single family homes, and then, right, there is some dense housing that needs to be created with access to parks and schools, just not all of it. Because we can build for a lot of households that are going to be households without children, either at the, you know, 55 and over, or at the, you know, 18 to 25 or 30. So it's like all of this, we need some of all of the above. Right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'd like to maybe think about more philosophically on this idea of sustainability and how that maps into growth. Are we going to plan for unlimited or continued growth forever? And is that sustainable? And also, you might want to put into that, it looks like what we're doing here is encouraging just higher density.
Well, to some extent, what we are doing here is encouraging higher density. And again, I can't answer the philosophical question about unlimited growth. And do we want to see a collapse in the capitalist system, or what are we going to have post-capitalism? Or that's not my forum. You could come talk about that with somebody else. I think we want economic prosperity. And I think that for now, the economic prosperity that we can envision is in a series of economic sectors that are different than the ones that drove economic prosperity in the past in the Bay Area in particular. And again, this is partly about the collapse of the military, the aerospace industry, and we're talking about a different set of industries here that have a different lifestyle, if you will. Even the industries have a lifestyle. So if you think about Google and Twitter and Facebook, and you know, those may not be the companies that you or I are going to work for, but they're going to be the kinds of companies that a lot of our kids are going to work for, and their kids are going to work for. And what those businesses are interested in are going to be different. Now, I've been reading a book on the history of business parks in the United States since World War II, and the rise of places like Bell Labs and some of these famous office parks that were way out in the hinterland in the suburbs. And interestingly enough, those business parks were built for the exact same set of imperatives in that time that we're talking about in the future for the economy that's coming. In other words, in the 1940s and 50s, this idea of the campus in the woods, living way out in the suburbs, that was what the market wanted. And so that's what we got. But what we're seeing now is a different set of market forces, a different set of imperatives, and a different set of actors who are really influencing and shaping what the built environment is going to look like. And the good thing about that is that it represents a convergence with the desire to also reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to support people who want, again, the lifestyle choices that could involve driving less. So I think that's the kind of sustainability that I can talk about. But like, are we going to plan for infinite growth, and are we going to, just assume that we're going to have growth without limits? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, and I really don't know how to talk about how the limitations are going to come to bear. All I can really talk about is where I see market forces going, and the ways in which I see market forces shaping the environment differently than they shaped the environment in the past really 50 years. And I think when you say it seems like all you're trying to get is density, yeah, that's right. But I think that's because that's what's responding to the market forces. And again, this is not to say that there won't be people who still want to work in a Bishop Ranch or a Hacienda business park context, which are suburban corporate campus type environments. We need those places too. But I am saying that the market forces are really pushing us in a different direction than we were going in the past. So that's the best I can.
Well, your definition then of sustainability would be what?
Well, my definition of sustainability would be trying to reduce the resources that we're consuming. So that would be water, carbon, and at the same time that we're creating places that are affordable and where people can live comfortably. But I think that we can do that in a lot of different ways. But I also feel that we need to work with the market. We need to work with the economy. Remember, I started by talking about employment growth drives population growth. And I feel like if we don't have a robust economy, we're going to look like Detroit. And that's not so desirable.
What I'm hearing is that there's really no one thinking about an economic model other than a growth model to support profits and better ROI to take care of our pension funds.
Yeah. I think that's right. We work, we earn money, we, pay tax. You may or may not agree with the idea of paying taxes and supporting government and whatever, but this has been sort of the fundamental core of the way American society and the American economy has worked. And I think that the nature of work, the number of people who are going to work from home or whatever, all those things are going to change, but I still think that people are going to need to earn a living and have a place to live and want to be able to eat, healthy food and live a comfortable lifestyle. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do think that we may need to re-envision kind of the package that comes in. And beyond that, I can't say much more. So, yes?
Also, when you talk about growth, there's also population growth, basic population growth. Now, you're working probably with some estimates of the population growth in California in 2040, right? That's something beyond our control, yet it will impact us, as it should, because it's unfair for wealthy communities to be exempt from having to take on some of the responsibility of a growing population in California, right? So how does a population growth that we can't control whether other people, whether a population of California grows or not, right? So how is that factored into all of this?
Well, you guys are asking hard questions. I think for a Thursday night at the end of the week, I think that I didn't have any wine at dinner. My brain is really fuzzy. I think that what I'm trying to suggest is that we're going to have